Oh, don't forget, men also get breast cancer.
Huh?
Yes. Men can also get breast cancer.
Breast or chest cancer?
It's breasts.
How?
They have breasts.
Really? This is possible?
Yes. I would advise anyone who wants to be healthy not to miss breakfast. While you're sleeping, your body is still working. Your stomach is still producing acid that is supposed to digest food. And you wake up a lot of the time, like you mentioned, you're having pangs and all that. It is real. You're actually hungry. Okay, and you need to eat. When the blood pressure is measured, there is the one that is on top, then there's a slash, then there's the one that is below. Now, the one that is on top measures what the pressure is in the vessels when the heart contracts.
Okay.
As it pushes, that is the systolic pressure. Now, the one that is below, because the heart contracts and then it relaxes. So the one that is below measures the pressure in the vessels when the heart relaxes. That's the diastolic. Okay? So you have the systolic over the diastolic. Hypertension is an illness that the symptoms range from nothing at all to death. And everything in between.
Please explain that.
Someone can have hypertension and not have any symptoms at all. The only thing that shows the person has hypertension is that the blood pressure is measured and it's outside of the normal. Without any symptoms. The first symptom that person may have could just be a person just drops and it goes.
If you recall, in one of my previous videos, I had mentioned that I will be addressing issues affecting estate planning and healthy living. Well, here is me fulfilling that promise. On this podcast interview, we will be discussing diverse health issues alongside estate planning. In this podcast, you will get to appreciate how the very simple things which we often ignore are quite important in achieving good health. You will also discover that certain things that you may have taken for granted over the years in pursuit of wealth, like eating, sleeping, exercising, and the rest, are inevitable and not optional in our life's pursuits. You will also learn the importance of developing and maintaining positive lifestyle choices and habits. Last but not the least, you would understand why you are the most important factor in your wealth gathering journey by staying alive and healthy. And of course, to help us deal with this topic, healthy living and estate planning, we have Dr. Uche Nwachukwu with us on the show today. Uche is a pediatrician and a fitness enthusiast. He trained at the University of Nigeria and Lagos University Teaching Hospital. His career as a medical practitioner has taken him from the east to the west, to the core north and back to the west. He is currently with the Premier Specialist Medical Center. One of Dr. Nwachukwu's life roles is being a health awareness educator. Of course, that's one of the reasons why we have him here today. Before I forget, I am the estate planning attorney. I'd like to have Dr. Nwachukwu to speak to us. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure and I must say it's a privilege to have this opportunity to talk to a wide audience about health. Well, I'll speak about the health part and you can carry on with your
estate planning.
With the estate planning. But really and truly, the health is the most important part of the estate for anybody. It doesn't make any sense for someone to work so hard, accumulate so much that you want to hand over to the other generation and you don't get to enjoy what you have worked hard for. You don't get to have good memories in the later years. Okay, so this whole series is aimed at getting us to be more healthy, which will make us more wealthy and make us enjoy the estate.
On the long run.
Yes, because finally, you can't make all these things arrange to have so much that you can't even get to enjoy. Doesn't make a lot of sense. So the best thing to do is to manage your health while you're making your wealth.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wanchuku. Like you've said a lot, and that is one of the reasons why we are having this session today. A lot of people tend to focus more on, the hustle of making money at the expense of their health. A lot of people want to gather wealth so that they can retire well at the end of the day. A lot of people want to gather wealth so that they can transfer to their children and maybe their great-grandchildren. But in the course of my work as an estate planning attorney, I have seen that something significant is being neglected, which is the health of the benefactor, the health of the main guy in this whole scenario. And that is one of the reasons why it became so important to speak to people that whilst you are working so hard to accumulate all that you can accumulate in your lifetime, and of course, bearing in mind that you want to transfer wealth to your children, what stops you from living longer in good health so that you can actually spend time with your children, your grandchildren, and be healthy when that time comes. So, Doctor, at this point, I would leave the mic to you to educate us about healthy living and how to discipline ourselves in order to achieve that healthy living.
Right. The first thing we need to realize is that the body you have right now, the body you have when you're 10, when you're 20, it's the same way you're going to have by the time you're 90 and 100.
Oh, wow.
If you live to be that long. And if you don't take good care of your body now, I mean, while you're still very young, while you're still very agile, while you have the potential to avoid certain things or pick up certain things, it will tell by the time you get a little older. And also bear in mind that you're the number one beneficiary. You should be the number one beneficiary of your estate. No matter how you look at it, you should be the number one beneficiary of your estate. It doesn't make much sense to have so much, accumulate so much, and then you're not able to even partake, from what you have worked so hard for. And it also doesn't make a lot of sense that one spends you spend all your productive life trying to, work so hard at the detriment of your own health. There are certain things that one could do, for things that should even start from childhood. There are certain habits that we need to inculcate. Some of us may have left, we have missed that bus for ourselves, but we also have the opportunity to get our children to be on that bus of being healthy. A healthy adult starts from being a healthy child. Okay. And there are certain habits that we can push into our children even now that will help them when they are older. One of the things that one tends to see with the generations that we are raising now is that because of the devices that are available to them, because of the televisions and all that, they tend to turn into couch potatoes, and we encourage them because when we give them devices, they are out of our hair. They're engaged in something, but that's not very good for their health. We need to encourage our children to be more active, start having an active lifestyle even as young as they are. Eating habits, one does not need to stress so much about that. The habits how an adult eats may just be a function of how they were eating when they were children.
Mhm.
Okay, there are families where you have a timetable. This is what we eat on Monday. This is what we eat on Friday, and the best time to start that is when when they are still very young, and that is also the best time to start introducing them to things that we would love them to eat when they are grown up. Things that will be good for them, things that will not be too bad for them. I don't have a problem with a child eating sweet things in quotes. I mean, that's the time they have the capacity to burn those calories if we do not imprison them with the devices that we give them and make them have so much screen time that they're not able to even burn the calories that they accumulate. So we find we're getting chubbier children, chubbier adolescents, call it what it is, they're overweight, they're obese, and those things start from the habits that we are pushing into them. The habits will allow them to develop while they're still on that roof.
Okay, so basically, I heard you talk about a healthy adult starts from being a healthy child.
Yes.
And I believe that you have, to a large extent, addressed that point. So now let's move into the adulthood, the space, the adult, the space where the adults play. How can you tell us about our health, our health conditions, and the things that we really need to pay attention to as adults when it comes to our health?
Okay, so as an adult, some of us may have the wrong notion that it's only children that need to sleep because their brain has to develop. So it flips when you're an adult. You have to sleep so your brain can calm down a bit. Okay, and that's very important for even adults. We need to have time, long enough sleep to allow your brain to shut down and make you more productive in the subsequent days. That's one. The other thing we also need to do and realize is that we need to be active. We need to be very active. Okay. There are studies that will tell you that doing a few steps, like 10,000 every other day, will actually help you to maintain, if not drop, at least maintain your weight. So if you're doing 10,000 steps every other day, it helps you to maintain your weight. No, we were talking earlier. I said I live in Lagos. I walk about in Lagos.
Yes.
So you find that, we, on a typical day, because we have all these things that, monitor our steps and all that, on a typical day, one crosses the 10,000 step mark. And it takes a deliberate effort. If you are not deliberate about it, you're unlikely to make it. I mean, we have to hustle, we have to work, we have to put food on the table, we have to do other things. And that entails for a lot of us, going to offices, into an office space, and we may not be able to get the steps that we are targeting. But there are ways around it. One of the things that people will tell you, if you are walking in a place, for instance, that has an elevator and it is not too high, I mean, no one is asking you to do climb 10 floors,
yeah.
right? But there are a lot of places where maybe it's like 3-4 floors. One should be able to do that with some practice. Okay. While you're in your office, most offices will have an intercom, but you're talking to someone who is just across from you. What stops you from getting up, take like 20 steps to the person's table and back to yours. You have a waste basket that is right beside you. That's why he's right. You have a waste basket that is right beside you. He has a waste basket that is right beside him. And, you could put it somewhere closer to the door, and then you get up, do 10 steps, 15 steps to that place and back. All count. So being active is a major, major part of staying healthy. Yeah. The other things that one will do. One very important thing before we forget, we need to also have regular health checks. In fact, if you have a schedule, pick a month, maybe a month before your birthday or the month after your birthday, or even your birthday month, to have a regular check done. Okay, a general check done. There are things that could go wrong, things that will go wrong. And the earlier we catch them, the better. For instance, we're all worried about hypertension, that's the blood pressure going up and all that.
Mm-hmm.
We are worried about not being able to handle sugar with an illness like diabetes mellitus. However, these are things that can be managed when we start managing them on time. Okay. For hypertension, the monitors are there. You can actually have one at home. Once you know what your numbers are supposed to be like, you check. It's within normal. You're happy. It's not within normal. Then you can ask and can get an intervention. Because the danger with these chronic illnesses is not so much as the blood pressure being high or so much as the blood sugar being high. That in itself may not cause too much of a problem. However, in the long run, you will find that the end organs, the important organs like the brain, the heart, the kidneys, they will get injured by the continued, if these things are not controlled. Okay, so you find someone that has hypertension from maybe like 20 years or 25 years and has been on medication from then. By the time the person has been on that one medication for like 5, 6, 7 years, the BP is controlled. Okay. And if you now have the added advantage of being an active and a healthy person, you don't need a lot to control the blood pressure. But when it's gone on for so long without being treated, that's where you now have adults that are taking 3, 4 different pills or combination of pills to try and control the same thing. Even at that, it's difficult. Even at that, some of the damage would have been done already. Okay. And we now have other lifestyle choices that can actually make these illnesses worse than what they would even be. There are things like, we've talked about being active. There are things like excessive alcohol consumption. Smoking is a no-no. It's quite... the truth about things like, some of things like that are that they come in when one is not really well enlightened, and they are habits, bad habits, and are very difficult to drop. However, they should be dropped. Smoking is a no-no. It's written on the packs and all that. They already tell you you will die if you smoke. And we still buy and we smoke. But that's bad.
But sorry to cut in.
Yeah.
Why is it that, for instance, now you just said smoking is a no-no, but you find people still consuming packs of cigarette. In fact, some people would not eat without smoking. Like immediately after eating, they must smoke. So, but why is it still so? Is it that people are not aware that this can actually impact negatively on their on their life, on their health. But is there something that draws people to it and make people not want to stop?
Now, the truth of the matter is that the cigarettes contain substances that are addictive. So it's more of an addiction.
Okay.
Well, like one wise man would say, a cigarette is one item that has a flame at one end and a fuel at the other. You know, it's something that shouldn't be done. Unfortunately, people get into it. These things are targeted at the much younger people. And why it succeeds is that you have adults that are doing those things in front of those children. A child will not say a word he has never heard. A child will not do an activity or do something that he has never seen done. So when these things are done in front of children by people who they idolize, they tend to find it as something that is normal, something that should be done. And they get into that habit. And by the time they realize that this is not good, there are so many bad parts to it, especially the health consequences. You also have other things, the smell that comes around, something that you cannot do in front of everybody. You have to hide to do some of those things. And then the state it puts you in sometimes, when you have the smoking, the drinking, then the other risky habits now come in. Okay, the tendency to have unprotected intercourse now comes in. Then you're looking at other big illnesses that can come via intercourse. Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to ask a particular question bordering on checks. So I'm going back to the issue of checks, medical, and having medical checkups and all of those things. Does having regular medical checks help one? Okay, let me just paraphrase the question. How exactly does having regular medical checkup help to, make you stay healthy? Because I can be living healthy and not, do any checkup and not do anything, and I'm fine. So, but how does that?
No, but the truth of the matter is that after a certain age, you are either managing something or something is managing you.
So, what is managing somebody?
So you need to find out.
Okay, I get the point.
Exactly. So is that you're either managing something is managing you. Now, let me give you an example with an illness like prostate cancer. It's something that when you find it early enough, it's very treatable. There are so many people that we know. I could call names. There are some people that have survived prostate cancer. There's no magic about it. It wasn't just about money. It was about finding out what your levels of the prostate-specific antigen is. You understand? I have a friend. I can give you that. So I have a friend that just before the COVID, we lost the dad to prostate cancer. And by the time we came back from the burial, in past, I said, have you done your PSA for this? He said, he hasn't done. I said, okay, go and do. It turned out he had prostate cancer. By the time all the tests were done. And he used most of COVID to treat it. And right now he's a survivor from cancer. There are so many other people that we could know, people that we know. But the key is finding out on time. Once you find out on time, make the diagnosis, it's very treatable and very curable. But once it goes beyond a certain stage, it's not nice.
So, as Africans, particularly Nigerians, when we're talking about estate planning, the focus and the attention seems to shift to the man. And this issue of prostate cancer that you mentioned seems to be everywhere now. I don't know if there was a name it was called before, but now it appears that if something killed somebody there, it's prostate cancer. If something killed somebody there, it's prostate cancer. So is it that people are not aware of this particular ailment and to get the medical checks on time? Because it appears to me like this timely checkup, assessment is like the quickest and easiest cure for it.
It's actually a low-hanging fruit as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
The investigations.
What is the low-hanging fruit? Is it the situation itself?
The screening, the
Okay.
regular check. I
Okay.
mean, if you check and find that the numbers are going beyond where we allow for as normal, it makes one to delve further and get a diagnosis if that is a prostate cancer. Because we need to bear in mind that every man has a prostate. It's a gland just below the bladder. Just below the bladder. The urethra passes through it and comes out to pass the urine. And a major part of the semen comes from the prostate. The sperms do not come from the prostate.
Okay.
Obviously, they come from the testes where they are formed. But a lot of the fluid, seminal fluid that follows the sperm when it comes out as an ejaculate, is produced in the prostate gland. And if one lives long enough, that prostate will get big. If one lives even longer, that prostate will eventually become cancerous. Okay, I'm talking from the background of tests that were done on much older people that had died from the autopsies. Then they find that there are traces. Okay, but for anyone who is 40 and above, you need to check regularly. And if you find out on time, it's a very, very simple thing to treat.
But is there something that really causes one to, or makes one to have this ailment?
Okay, so it is not transferred from father to son. Yes, but we find that it tends to run in families.
Okay.
In the sense that once one family member has had it, the likelihood increases for another family member to have it. So it makes a lot more sense even now if one has a family member that has had a prostate cancer or any cancer for that matter, one should keep an eye on oneself and check regularly so that you can catch whatever it is on time if it happens. If it doesn't happen, we thank God. Or if it does happen and is seen on time, it's easier to treat, and the prognosis, the outcome is usually a lot better.
Okay, so there's another thing very important that I would like to touch on, and that is the issue of, certain health conditions, bearing family, in running in a family. So if you check a particular family, you find out, this family has a history of this. And this kind of, in this climb that we are in, I think I used to hear, I'm not too sure, that back in the days when somebody wants to marry from a particular family, they have to go and check the family history.
Yes.
To see if a particular,
and there are things that they look out for.
runs in that family.
They look out for whether they steal in the family,
yeah,
and then health-wise, whether there is a history of a mental illness or history of epilepsy and things like that.
Things like that.
Those are the things that they could check then.
True.
Okay. But coming down to illnesses that tend to run in families, things like asthma, things like diabetes, hypertension. We do not really know why Mr. A and his children would have hypertension. It is not because Mr. A passed the wrong genes to them. Okay. It's more like they have the same genes, the same genetic makeup. They're from the same family, so they probably have the same cultural practices, have the same meals, exposed to the same environment, the same factors. So the likelihood of them having the same things are there. Yeah. But it's not that someone, because a parent was hypertensive, then all the children or some children must have hypertension. No. But we tend to find it in those clusters that once it's there, other people may actually have it. But it's not something to be scared of. It's something to be on the lookout for. Okay, and catch it on time, whatever it is, and then manage it well. The person lives a normal, healthy, life.
Okay, there's something that, sorry to cut you, doctor, there's something that you mentioned, and I'm guilty of it as well, and that's sleep. So you talked about sleep time. So I wrote it, I noted it down as a major problem. Yeah. Particularly when you live in a place like Lagos. Just this morning, I was on my way to the gym, and I stopped by at a pharmacy, a 24 hours pharmacy. And I wanted to buy some muffins, cake, so I could just have something in my stomach as early as possible. Because I started to feel the pinch and all of that. And the pharmacist was attending to me. I took some like 6 in number. And she said, wait, don't tell me you are going to work by this time. And I just kept quiet. I couldn't answer. She was attending to me and she said, you have not answered me. I said, what? Is this an interview or something? So I told her that actually I'm going to the gym, but I need to get there on time so that I can leave on time and go to work. And she said, how long do you sleep? She asked me. And I said, yesterday I tried, because I tried to go to bed at 11 o'clock in the evening. But because of that bad habit of not sleeping well, I woke up at 1:33 a.m. So 11, 12, 12, 1, 1:33. That's about 2 hours, 30 minutes. I woke up by myself, and I was afraid that I had slept too much. So I forced myself to sleep back again. But before going back to bed, I had to set my alarm like 3 times, 15 minutes intervals, just in case I didn't hit the first one. So we're talking about estate planning and healthy living. A lot of people, in the course of trying to make money, in the course of trying to, retire, planning, doing all that they can do to retire well and bequeath some legacy to their children, they lose sleep. Some don't even get sleep at all. Some get 3 hours, 2 hours sleep a night. I remember a particular interview I watched of a prominent person in Nigeria, one of the biggest businessmen in Nigeria. He said that if he slept up to 3 hours a night, it's by luck. It's by luck. So the essence of this session is to enlighten people and to make people become aware of what they need to do to stay healthy and how important being healthy is. How do we live in this Lagos? Bearing in mind the circumstances, we're talking about traffic and all of those things. How do you stay in this Lagos and still manage to get good sleep?
Right. So ideally one should get 8 hours of sleep.
No, but even you laugh at that. 8 hours. I'm sure I will wake up 3 times in that 8 hours.
Ideally, and some of us have have the ability to crash once we get home, when we get home. Some of us
Is
do
it a
not.
natural ability or something you
Yes,
develop?
I think it's partly innate and then partly from conditioning.
Okay.
Okay, and anybody that tells you that I'm a late night person and all that is not very true. It's all part of conditioning. It's how you have conditioned yourself. Okay, but ideally one should get 8 hours of sleep at night. We can manage 6, but ideally you should get 8 hours. And we also have, we go to work. We don't have to do active work from the 9 we get to the office or 8 to get to the office until 5 o'clock. There are places outside of here that take a break. The whole country goes on break by 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock, whatever that is, to go take a siesta. And it's something that one could walk into your schedule. You do not have to sleep in the afternoon. You do not have to, but if you can, that would be nice. Okay, catch a power nap or something. But when consistently we are not catching much sleep, it tells on our health. It tells on our mental health. Even tells on our physical health, because there are hormones that are released while you are in that deep sleep that help to maintain your health. So if you are not, if you don't allow those hormones to be released by going into the deep sleep for that long,
so you are going to be deficient.
Yes, you're going to be sleep deprived.
Okay. Maybe I should just confess. I feel that way a lot.
No, but when one feels that way, the other thing is to plan how to get some rest away from work. It doesn't have to entail too much financing. There are places even locally that one could go and catch a rest. Like, I'm going to Abeokuta.
Yeah, you said so. Yeah. You said so. Do you know this thing you just said now made me to decide on something like right now? Today, when I got to the office, I told my staff that I would like to just catch maybe a 30 minutes, rest. And so like, okay, sir, no problem. Do you want to shut your door? I said, leave it open. Okay. Then later, when she came into my office, she met me writing and writing. She said, you didn't sleep again? I said, no, I could not sleep. And I kept going. She was like, sorry. And she left. I felt that way yesterday. And today, of course, you remember I said I got up 4 o'clock. To 5, I was already close to the gym buying stuffs. So I discovered that today my body was telling me, just go and rest somewhere. And I said, okay, today after today's work, I would go and get some rest. The thing is, I am an estate planning attorney. I advise clients a lot, teaching them how to plan, structure the estates, do all of those things. But I discovered that this health of a thing.
Can I tell you something?
Please go ahead.
If you drop today,
I'm sure
if you drop today, somebody else is going to someone is going to be doing that work that was so important that you wouldn't rest from it. That role that you feel only you can feel.
Have to do it.
Somebody else is going to have to do it.
Okay, doctor, let's do this way. I don't think you should be telling me alone that. I think you should tell everybody. I think I would like us to stay a bit on this point about if you drop today, because that's really about this.
No, but it's the reality. Death is part of the reality of life.
Yes,
it's part of the cycle, and it's a gateway that, except to become raptured at some point, except Jesus decides to come now, It's something that's going to get to every one of us. And because it's such a real thing, we need to maximize and optimize the time that we have here. You know, like someone was, making an analogy. Imagine pouring water into a flask. In fact, you were not there when the water was poured, which is what it is when life was poured into us, into a flask that is not transparent, and you can't see into the flask. And it's turned and it's poured at a certain rate. You do not know how much is left inside. Okay? So you can finish at whatever point. You don't have control over that. So the time that we have, the today that we have, we need to maximize. Yes, we'll work hard. Yes, we'll make money. Yes, we'll get wealth. But we also need to, while we are on that journey through this forest called life, to smell the flowers that are around us. Try and catch some enjoyment. Try and relax. Try and get some sleep. Okay? It's nice to be wealthy, to have everything, but it's even better to be around and enjoy those things. Okay, so we should always plan, your people should always plan their estates with themselves as beneficiary. And the first benefit that you can give to yourself and really to your rest of your family is to be healthy. So if one is not healthy, if one is not rested, then it doesn't make too much sense to have so much that you cannot even enjoy for yourself.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. Quickly, when we had some loose conversations, I remember you talked about choices, lifestyle choices and wrong lifestyle choices. Can you just enlighten us about that?
Okay, so, well, the way I define lifestyle is what you do when you wake up in the morning, what you do as you retire at night, and everything that is in between. Now, it's mostly left to you to decide what you're going to do. You are the one that will decide when you wake up. You're also the one that will decide when you go to bed. You're the one that will decide what you're going to do for your day. And you plan your day and you work out your day. Now, there are things that we do every day. There are things that we do occasionally. For every day we eat. Okay. And how you arrange your eating is also left to you. I would advise anyone who wants to be healthy not to miss breakfast. And I can tell you why. You have all day long to burn those calories when you eat breakfast. You will have lunch not as a hungry person, but as someone who has already had something. So you're not tempted to overeat or stuff yourself. And by the time you're having dinner, which of course should be sometime before 7 p.m., it will be something not very heavy. I am not saying something light because people
They have a
different definition of something light.
light.
So something that is not heavy for dinner. And to have these things done regularly. Okay, that's one. There are things that we do. Choosing or not choosing to indulge in certain habits like having loads of alcohol. We've talked about smoking before. Those are choices that one has to make. Okay. Risky behaviors. Okay. They kind of multiply onto themselves. By the time you start with you're adding smoking to drinking to intoxication, whether by what they smoke or by what they swallowed and all that, it increases the risk to have things like unprotected intercourse. Okay.
Yes,
And all the other ripples that come from
Comes-
it, the unwanted pregnancies, the sexually transmitted infections, and all that. Okay.
So those are choices.
Those
that
are
we make.
choices that we make. Those are choices that we make, lifestyle choices that we make. And of course, we mentioned earlier about making a choice to be active, making a choice to be fit. Okay. Well, we also remember that the body we have is the only one that we're going to get. Science has not taken us to, and is unlikely to take us to the stage where we can move our spirit and our souls to some other person's body, a fresh body. We haven't gotten to that stage. And we also haven't perfected the art of reversing aging. We only see that in movies. And so those things, as far as we know, have not yet been put in place for the ordinary person. Okay, so we need to manage the greatest of our assets, which is ourselves and our bodies, our health. Okay, once we're able to do that, then we can retire to with a healthy body.
You said something about breakfast. A lot of us are guilty of not having breakfast. Maybe because of Lagos life. You wake up very early in the morning. You have a lot of things that you have to do in between the time you wake up from bed
to work
and the time you start work. And before you know what is happening, meetings and all of that, you don't even get even your lunch. You're struggling to eat lunch around 3-4 o'clock and all of that. What is the likely negative that can arise from not having breakfast?
Okay, so except for those of you that they give food, they give food during the dream. No, but really and truly, like
during the day.
like someone mentioned, I saw one video about it, that if they give you food while you're sleeping, I should go ahead and eat. Okay.
Yeah, I think I saw something like that.
Yeah. Truth is, while you're sleeping, your body is still working.
Okay.
Your stomach is still producing acid that is supposed to digest food. And you wake up a lot of the time, like you mentioned, you're having pangs and all that. It is real. You're actually hungry. Okay. And you need to eat. One, to neutralize the acid that your stomach has been producing through the night. 2, to provide you with calories, to provide you with energy to walk through the day. Okay. And like I mentioned, having had breakfast, you're not going to be very hungry at lunch. In fact, you can actually, rather than skip breakfast, you can skip lunch.
Okay.
And rather than skip lunch, you can skip dinner in order of importance.
Rather than skip lunch, you can skip. So you're trying to say
rather than
breakfast.
skip breakfast. Breakfast is the most important, followed by the lunch, and then followed by dinner.
Okay.
So if you must skip, you can take out the dinner.
Okay.
But not breakfast.
But not breakfast.
Yes.
And not lunch.
You can. If you've done breakfast, you can still make up. Yes. And the other thing that I forgot to mention is that the acid can actually, if one has a tendency, can actually give you an ulcer.
It does. If you miss your breakfast.
If you're not eating regularly.
Because
your stomach is still producing the acid. So if you're not eating regularly to have food that will dilute and neutralize that acid, make use of the acid. It could damage.
Okay, so doctor, now this part is not free consultation, but we're having this session to educate people.
But if you're going to ask me something about you,
I
may have to examine you here.
No, okay. Okay, but this is actually true. I was examined recently, and doctor asked me, "What is your eating pattern?" That was the first question. Based on the complaint I gave, he said, "What is your eating pattern?" And I said, "If it's that one, forget about it."
It's whenever.
And he said, "That is the problem. Because this indigestion keeps happening, this bloatedness. I sleep and wake up, it feels like I just ate and the digestion is taking place. Like it's just, everything is just scattered." So he had to put me on some kind of medication and said, "Don't ever skip your breakfast." So
Right.
as you were talking, I was trying to hold the confession. But as you were saying, it was too heavy. He said, "Don't skip your breakfast."
Yeah.
And like we're going back to it, we're going to get to that discipline. And that I also wanted to ask you about the good lifestyle, like the healthy lifestyle that one should develop or imbibe. So right now, I will not miss breakfast. But you didn't have to get to that point.
Yeah.
Which is the essence of this conversation. You didn't have to get to that point for it's now looking like a remedial process.
Trying to repair something that shouldn't have been spoiled in the first place. Yeah.
Yes. So I understand. I think I can relate with this breakfast thing that you're talking about. It just corroborates what you have said. Now, but let's travel down to discipline. How significant is discipline to healthy living?
Right. It forms a bedrock of everything that we've spoken about. Being able to control yourself, being able to restrain yourself from certain things, being able to form good habits and keep to them. Okay. Let's start with going to bed.
Okay.
And that's the one. I didn't say going to sleep. I say going to bed.
Okay, so there are two different.
There are two different things. You can be in bed and you don't sleep.
Does going to bed have its own importance?
So going to bed is the first step towards going to sleep. Okay. So having a regular bedtime. Okay, by so and so time, lights go off. And for those that sleep without lights go off and you are in bed. Okay. Not just for us, but for the rest of the family.
Okay.
It will also help every other person to catch sleep. You're in bed, and depending on how you have been conditioned, how you've conditioned yourself, you will fall asleep at some point. Okay. And doing that repeatedly will condition you to going to sleep when you go to bed.
Okay.
Okay. With or without any outside help. That's one good habit. The other habit, of course, having the habit of being active. You do not necessarily, even though it is ideal, you not necessarily have to go into a formal gym and be attending every day like some gym rats that we know.
Okay.
However, having a regular routine, I spend 30 minutes or 5 minutes on fitness every morning or every evening. It helps. You may not see apparent results. Yes. You may not see things that we show you that I've been working out for 6 months now. My weight is still where it is. That is not the issue. You have not considered the mental fitness that you've gotten from having that habit and having that discipline. You have not considered that your heart, which you cannot see, is a lot better for it. Because the heart itself is just muscle. even though it's not exactly the same type of muscle that you're seeing on the skeleton, it's just muscle and nerves. Okay, and the muscle that is in your heart also needs the exercise. And there are very few things, there are a lot of, things that you can do to exercise the heart. Okay, walking is one of them, running if you can, then so many other exercises. But with the caveat that before you start, you will need to have had your regular check, so that if there are any issues with the heart, because I know most health plans would include tests that would examine the heart. Okay, so if there are any issues with the heart, then those can be managed before you can go into anything that will strain the heart, that would work out the heart. So, assuming we have a clean bill of health, once starts off, you don't have to go from 0 to 1 million in 1 second when it comes to, fitness. It's something that builds. Something that builds is like a good addiction. Okay? You start off with baseline 1,000 steps. You walk to your gate and come back. Pat yourself on the back that you have started on the journey. You find at some point down the line, you are able to walk to your gate 3 times, 4 times, and then you're able to go out of your gate, walk around the estate, or, things like that. And you find that you will start looking forward to having those activities. Okay, you start looking forward to waking up very early in the morning. For instance, if you're someone that does early morning walking, waking up very early in the morning to do your normal walk. Okay, and can assure you, there are lots of people who have the same enthusiasm, who have the same point of view, who are looking to retire well and enjoy themselves in their old age, who are doing exactly the same thing. And you'll be in very good company. Okay.
So I remember that you mentioned something on moderation. Moderation when we were speaking earlier in terms of discipline and all of that.
Yeah.
So how do you want to explain that concept of moderation when it comes to discipline?
Right. So just to say that we don't advocate through thou shalt not these days. Okay. I said thou shalt not taste alcohol, thou shalt not. I mean, it's good if you don't drink at all. It's fine. Okay. But if you must indulge, there must be moderation. Okay. People will tell you that alcohol actually protects the heart. It is true, but it's taken out of context. Okay. The quantity of alcohol is very defined. It's a glass of wine a week. Okay, and you cannot pile up your ration and say you're drinking.
All the ones that didn't drink last 2 months.
All the ones didn't drink, and then you have people that because they say wine is good for the heart, they will do 4 bottles all by themselves in one evening. So that doesn't work. Okay, it's a glass of wine in 1 week.
And that's if I told you, if
you must,
for those people who are like perpetual drinkers.
Yes,
because I mean I'm an advocate of don't drink at all. Is there anything wrong?
I am not.
Is there anything wrong in that?
Like, no, it's fine.
Health-wise?
It's fine. It's a very good thing not to drink at all.
Okay.
It's a very good thing not to drink at all.
Okay.
But if one must drink in moderation. Okay.
Yeah.
Not drink to get intoxicated. You don't drink so much that you're killing your liver, because that's the organ that will take care of the alcohol that you have. Yeah. So you don't want to overload your liver. You don't want to overload your kidneys either. Okay. So moderation. Moderation. Why I keep kicking on, emphasizing moderation is that there are people who have become so used to these things. And then when you just take it out cold turkey like that, the withdrawal and the symptoms that come with it will come into play.
Okay.
So getting people to gradually, progressively move from taking too much to taking a little bit, then ideally to not taking at all. Okay, so that's what the journey should be.
Okay, so we're talking about estate planning and healthy living. It will be incomplete if we don't address issues concerning people in their old age. So what are the prevalent health conditions that people suffer in their old age, and how do you nip that in the bud? How do you start from now to begin to address those likely health issues? And again, let me add to that question. People who are in their old age, let's say maybe between 55 to 70.
Is that old age? 55.
55 is not old age. No, so I don't want to reduce it too low. I don't want to take it too high, rather. Okay, what would you call old age?
No, you're using start to call me an old man.
Oh, okay. Let's just say for want of a better word, like let's just take it from there.
No, so you can do 60 because 60. that's when people actually retire.
Okay. So from 60, let's say 60, between 60 and 75. All right. How do you stay healthy in this age bracket?
Right. It's quite
because there
simple.
are some things that we will do as young adults that they will not be able to do.
Now that's the trick.
Okay.
That's the trick. You need to have started some of these things a lot earlier. Okay. And that helps you maintain as a habit even in the old age. Okay. But when that hadn't happened, okay, it's never late to start being active. Okay. Walking is very good exercise.
That's just the normal walking.
Walking is very good exercise. Even if you're doing it with a walking stick. It's very good exercise. The other exercise that people neglect is clapping. Clapping, yes. It actually works. Apart from walking,
so where does that impact? Like the clapping,
it works your hands, and it works a lot on the heart.
It vibrates your heart.
Yes, it improves the heart tone because it increases your heart rate and increases what you are doing is activity. And
if some people listen on this podcast and hear this and you said they'll clap all through the service in church.
Oh yes. That's one of the things that every time I give this kind of health talk in to a gathering of people and all that, I usually end it with this: that clapping is very good exercise. So let's clap for ourselves, and then you find that the applause will go for like
because they now know that it's impacting positively.
Yes, it is, and you should actually try it. I mean, anyone can try it out for themselves. When you clap for long enough, you will feel that you are doing something.
Like how many minutes?
If you clap for long enough, if you clap, it will differ for different people. Yes, apart from that, your hands will actually feel a little heavier. You will actually find that if you clap for long enough, you might actually breathing a little faster than you ordinarily will breathe. Okay, and those are things that someone that has run, same thing, the same effect. Okay, someone that has walked fast, same effect. Increase the heart rate, increase the respiration. Okay, and those are things that would work out the heart. Okay, that's one. That the other thing also to consider is their mental health. Very important. Mental health, again, is something that one needs to prepare for before you get there. Okay, we should be thinking about your friendships, how to maintain your friendships. Know what organizations you belong to, what clubs they are going to be spending your evenings at. Okay, these are very important things, because if you find an old person who doesn't have any friends, doesn't have anywhere to go, that's a recipe for disaster.
Okay, That can lead to
Depression.
depression.
Because you're just there. Someone that's maybe like a big director in one ministry for a very long time that has so many people come, your phone is ringing up the hook, people are coming to your house, the middle of, and you live there, you've retired, you're now at home. And because you don't have as much influence as you had when you were up there, people are not coming anymore. Okay. So one needs to have, while you are up there, deliberately cultivated the friendships that are going to last you into your evening.
Okay. So there is this thing called dementia. A lot of old people suffer from that, particularly in their 70s, 80s, and all of that. Like they stop remembering things and all of that. Is it normal, or is it something that caused it?
Dementia, especially the one they call Alzheimer's, it's something that is still being studied.
Okay.
There are a few things that have some probable link to developing dementia, but it's not an exact science right now. It's not. We don't know enough to say this is what causes dementia, or that if you do this, if you take this, then you will never have. We don't have that information yet.
Why I asked that question is because as an estate planning attorney, you get to a point where you're having a client and suddenly the client is not remembering some things that you've talked about. The client said some things to you, and
no, but part of normal old age is that you can get off from here and want to get something from out there. By the time you get there, you forget what it is. I mean,
but that is
it
can even happen
it's
to
good.
us.
It's good old age. Okay? You're not forgetting major things. You're not forgetting major things. It's just the final details may not be at your grasp immediately. You're not forgetting people that you're supposed to remember, people that are close to you. Okay, that's part of normal old age, is that there are things that your faculties may not be working as sharply as they used to. It might take you a longer time to remember things. It might take you a longer time to place things. It might take you a little longer to remember where you kept some things. Those are parts, normal aging process. Okay. But the dementia that we're talking about, that's a different dimension entirely. Yes.
Okay. So a lot of times you hear this word calories. Some people tell you, I want to burn so amount of calories. But I also heard you speak that your body works at night. Like your system works at night, produces certain acids
acids, yes, acids in the stomach. Yeah.
The stomach acids that you require to be able to burn or digest the food that you consume. So in the morning, you wake up and you don't end up eating. There's nothing to burn. There's nothing for those acids to work on.
If you don't eat,
If you don't eat, you eat and you take in calories. And you said that the body will be able to burn those calories during the day and all of that. So how do you want to explain this calories thing to the audience?
So every activity that you have requires you to expend some energy.
Okay.
And the energy you're going to spend will either come from the food that you just had to eat or comes from your reserve.
Okay.
Now,
so the body has reserve energy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. For instance, a clear example, we know there are different categories of food: the carbohydrates, the fats, the proteins, and all the other minor minerals. Now, the carbohydrates are the primary source of energy. You can spell that as calories. Okay. Now, you take in the carbohydrates and the sugars, the body converts it to energy, and then you use it through the day. Now, the excess that comes from them, if you have more, if you take in more than the body needs to burn, it doesn't throw it away. It goes into the stores. Okay, stored as glycogen in the muscles and in the liver. Okay, so you have a reserve. Now, for the periods when you have not taken in, the body now resorts to the stores to convert those stores into energy for use now. Okay, now is that starvation, the intake is not on for a very longer time. Now, you're not talking about starvation. Okay, you find that someone who is starving will start drying up like a stick. Okay, you find the body actually like eating itself. Okay, turning what is available into calories that you can use to maintain activity. Okay, so now the balance when one is managing weight is very important. Okay, you have to balance what is going in with what you're going to expend, what you're going to burn up. Okay, which is why some people would have their diets that do not include carbohydrates. Okay, and the person will actually lose weight because the body is going to draw from the reserve.
Okay, so I'm getting the point now. So that carbohydrate is very, very significant.
Yes, it is.
So so that's why I say, because I used to hear people say, "Oh, I want to burn the calories. I want to burn the calories." It is the energy. It is that process that makes them to lose weight.
Yes.
So the body practically feasts on itself.
Yes, grabs from itself and burns.
And it's not getting replenished.
Exactly. When you're balancing what is going in with what is being expended. Okay, so if one now curtails the amount of calories that are going, just like putting fuel inside a car. Okay, you put a full tank and
you didn't burn it.
It remains there. Okay, even though that's not a very good analogy, because if fuel it stays there, it stays in the same itself. It stays. But what happens in the body is that what comes in, the one that is not used, is converted into fat.
Now you are talking. Now you have hit the nail on the head, because
into fat, and it goes to the places that you don't want it to go.
So that process of burning the calories, you are trying to make sure that you don't accumulate.
Exactly, you don't have
that will later turn
excess
to fat.
Exactly, that will now be accumulating into the
different
body
places
and making the person chubby. Yeah.
Thank you very much for explaining this, because honestly, yes, I just hear people say, "I want to burn the calories." And of course, it's okay. You need to burn the calories, but the real understanding, analogy, what is analogy? I have not gotten, and maybe I'm not taking my time to study it. Of course, I have a lot of law books to study, but thank you for explaining that concept.
Another thing that exercise does, they say when you do a bit of intensive exercise, it increases the rate at which the body burns those calories.
So it makes it burn faster?
Yes. And it doesn't stop once one stops the fitness activity. Okay. So even while you have left the gym, apparently, and you're in the office, that rate is still high.
Really?
Yes. And if you are doing it regularly, you find that even if you're out of exercise for like a week or two, you are still burning, because the body's metabolic rate is still high.
But is it possible that is why one can easily get, after working out and everything, you can get so tired? Like maybe like 2 hours, 3 hours later, you find yourself becoming so tired that maybe you just
You're
want to,
losing energy.
because it's still working.
It's still working.
I've been like this thing, I experience it. I'm just
Yes.
like,
It's
I'm
still
telling you what I
working.
experienced. So sometimes you just feel like, so tired. But I went to work out, why am I feeling this way?
And then you go have a shower and all that, you're still sweating.
And that's why most times after working out, I don't like bathing with hot water at the gym.
Okay.
After all the workout,
Okay.
before you change and leave the gym, I just like to use like of course, not so cold, but just room temperature
Try
water
and cool yourself down.
to cool myself down, because after working out, then come and pour hot water on myself. My body does not really accept it.
Then again, it's everyone listens to their body.
Yes. Yeah.
And you find what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
You could have someone that would say, once I finish working out, I have to sit down in one place for like 30 minutes and let the sweat dry before I even try taking the shower. And you have people that would want to take a shower immediately with hot water as part of the process of them to lose more energy, lose more calories. But whatever works for, whatever works for you.
Oh, wow. So, if I may ask, what would be your summary and holistic advice to the audience, to our viewers, on this issue of healthy living, discipline, and of course, marrying it with estate planning? So, because we're going back to where we started, the focus is, all of this conversation is necessary because different folks, have different issues that they are battling with. There's one mystery that I must solve today, and you are here. You will solve it for me.
It depends.
Why do you people write in that way?
I don't understand.
I have never been able to read what a doctor writes. And it tells
you haven't been to write. You haven't seen me write.
It tells you no. When you are doing prescription, not your normal writing.
No, it's the same way I write.
So somebody can never read that thing.
No. It's not. The truth of the matter is this.
And they tell you go and give it to the pharmacist.
I'm going to just hazard a guess as to why a lot of doctors' handwritings are not legible.
Okay.
In a short period of time, you're having to take up and write so much.
Okay.
The lectures can be quite voluminous because there's a lot to be done. If I was telling my daughter one day that the books I read, and that's not being not with a literary license, the books I read for my first 3-4 years in medical school would get up to the ceiling, and you pile them up. And these are things you're supposed to have inside your head. Half of those things are not, I'm sure they're somewhere in there, but they're not useful to me right now. Okay. So you need to do a lot of writing fast and all that. So even those that came in with good handwriting may deteriorate.
The career spoils the handwriting.
However, the truth of the matter is that some people still continue to write in a hurry. And when you do that, whether you're a doctor or not, if you're writing in a hurry, your handwriting will not be nice. Okay, so it's something that you need to deliberately.
A lot of people have these issues with doctors. So we used to believe.
No, but the truth is that people look at my writing and say, this is the first doctor's handwriting I can write. It's okay. But I know a lot of my colleagues that have good handwriting.
But we were thinking that, of course,
there was a code.
Yes, that you people write deliberately like that to make sure that we cannot read it or we cannot understand it.
No, but there's no point making you not be able to read what I'm writing. You can read it, but whether you'll understand is another matter.
Okay, that's
Even
true.
for my clear
Even the thing you just said,
writing,
there's one name that one word that you just mentioned now when we're talking about cervical cancer.
the human papilloma virus. Okay.
Yes. I mean, like you said, truly, even if you read it, like, do you understand it? Okay, please, let's.
Okay, so every woman has a womb.
Mm-hmm.
Every womb has a cervix, which is the lowermost part of it that points into the vagina. That's where the baby is stored and baby comes out from. It's the cancer of the cervix is a very common cancer in women. Okay, in fact, after breast, it's very close. And over time, work has shown that a particular virus that whenever you see cancer of the cervix, you will see that virus. Okay, and it's called the human papilloma virus. How is it contacted? It's sexually transmitted. And there's a vaccine that takes care of most strains of that virus. Right now, there's a campaign to vaccinate all the young girls before they become sexually active. From the time they are 9 and above.
That's 9 years.
9 years, yes. For those that are less than 14, between 9 and 14, they get 2 doses. For those that are older than 14, they get 3 doses. And for the adult females that are obviously older than 14, they get 3 doses. But we tend to make them do a pap smear.
Okay.
Before, which is a screening for cervical cancer, before they can get the vaccine. Okay. Now, the thought is that if you immunize the women against the human papilloma virus, it will not be there on their cervix and they're unlikely to get cervical cancer. The causal relationship is not well established yet, but you find this one, you find the other one. So take out this one. And this one will reduce. That's the thinking behind it.
Okay. So, is there any way to avoid or prevent this particular disease?
Vaccination.
No, I'm talking
vaccination, that's one. Then it's also part of the regular. I know we talked about the prostate in the men.
Yes.
The cervix, well, you could put that on the same side as put that side by side with the prostate cancer for men on the women's side. Okay. Now, the regular checks that are done on the women's side would include checking the cervix for checking the cervix. So we do a pap smear. They take samples from there and then check to be sure that there are no cancers or precancer cells, any different cells that are there in the cervix. Now, it's also one cancer that is very, very, very treatable once it's caught early. Okay. In fact, there is a stage that it can be settled there and then while you're doing while they're doing the screening. Yeah. I know of organizations that do mobile screening. So part of the screening is treatment there and then. Okay. They see the thing, they check and it's positive. They treat the localized one there and then. And if there are if it looks suspicious, then can give a shorter appointment to recheck. Okay. If that's one illness that can be easily treated and cured if it's found on time.
Okay, so doctor, I would like us to touch quickly on some main concerns. Number 1, high blood pressure. Number 2, paralysis. Number 3, mental health. I know we talked about that, but let's talk about as we wrap up. So I talked about high blood pressure. I talked about paralysis. That's what you call stroke. Abi, if I'm correct. Am I correct? So high blood pressure, stroke, mental health, And yes, let's touch on these three. So
Okay.
as we wrap up.
Now, hypertension, which is high blood pressure.
Sorry.
For
Yes, I remember the third one.
diabetes.
No. Yes. So, sir. So you have made it 4. Actually, okay. High blood pressure,
Stroke.
paralysis, stroke, high blood pressure. No, diabetes and breast cancer.
Okay.
Just these 4. Let's touch on this. Let's leave mental health because we've talked about that before.
Okay.
Let's touch on this
So
one.
for hypertension, it just means blood pressure outside of what is normal for the age of that individual. Now, generally, when the blood pressure is measured, there is the one that is on top, then there's a slash, then there's the one that is below. Now, the one that is on top measures what the pressure is in the vessels when the heart contracts.
Okay.
As it pushes, that is the systolic pressure. Now, the one that is below, because the heart contracts and then it relaxes. So the one that is below measures the pressure in the vessels when the heart relaxes. That's the diastolic. Okay? So you have the systolic over the diastolic. Now, for normal, we expect that the systolic should not be above 120.
Okay. When it contracts.
Yes, when the heart is contracted, the highest point, it should not be more than 120. And the diastolic should not be more than 80. Those are the normals. Now, we can make small allowances. Okay, for that are still high normal, but we keep a closer eye on them. Okay, so that's it for hypertension. It's an illness that the symptoms range from nothing at all to death and everything in
Please
between.
explain that.
Someone can have hypertension and not have any symptoms at all. The only thing that shows the person has hypertension is that the blood pressure is measured and is outside of the normal.
Without any
symptoms. The first symptom that person may have could just be the person just drops and it goes.
Oh, wow. Let me adjust.
Which is part of why we have been emphasizing check. Okay. The stroke we mentioned earlier is one of the things that could result.
Sorry, sir, is that the same thing as cardiac arrest?
No, it's not.
It's not? Oh, wow. Okay, please go
ahead. But it could lead
to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Please
go
ahead.
The stroke we spoke about, when we think about the brain, there's the brain and then we have vessels that supply the brain with blood, with the nutrients and all that. If those vessels get blocked, the area after that blockage will not get any supplies.
Of blood.
Yes. No blood, no food, nothing gets beyond that blockage. Okay? And that area now becomes compromised. Okay? That's one type of stroke. The other type is that the vessel that is taking that blood to that place bursts. So imagine that the pipeline got burst.
No direction.
It's burst. It's not going to where it's supposed to. So it's just
no direction.
pouring all over. So imagine that a pipeline, for instance, gets burst at Ejibo, for instance. Where it's supposed to supply will not get any supply. Okay? So we end up with the same thing. The area after that place becomes compromised. And the brain is divided into segments. The ones that control the leg, the ones that control this part, the one that controls speech, the one that controls memory. So depending on which area is affected,
there's shortage of supply.
Exactly.
It's good to understand things. Okay. Because sometimes, but sometimes you find some people they just get like maybe the one they call partial stroke.
That's actually not partial stroke, but
So what is that?
now what happens is this. Usually is one side of the brain that is affected. And the way the body is structured, one side controls this side, one side controls this side. So if you have a compromise on this side, then you have, depending, like I said, the brain is divided into segments, each one controlling a part of the body. So if that part of the body, the part of the body that is controlled by the area that is compromised, okay, once that area is compromised, then control of that place becomes compromised too. It's like switching it off. So that place is not working.
So that's what causes stroke.
That is a stroke.
That is the stroke itself. So how do you avoid that stroke from happening?
Now, a lot of the strokes, cardiovascular accidents, that's what they're actually called. I don't know who put the accidents there. Anyway, so a lot of those things can be preventable. When you're talking about hypertension, you're talking about diabetes. The hypertension comes into play when you're thinking about the integrity of the vessels, even the diabetes too, the integrity of the vessels that are going up there. I mentioned earlier that it's not just that the blood pressure is high that is the issue. It's the fact that it's damaging things at the ends. Okay, so it's damaging the vessels, it can damage the brain, it can damage the other organs. Now, the blood pressure comes into place when it's so high, you could have bursting of the vessels. I'm trying to use very, terms that we cannot understand. The vessels burst in the brain and areas are compromised. Okay? The other one I mentioned earlier is that you could have clots. Okay?
Prevent the blood from...
That will go and block the vessel and the area after it is compromised. Okay? Now, how do we prevent that? Some people would advocate that when one gets to a certain age, they start to take blood thinners, things that will make the blood not clot quickly, like low dose aspirin, okay, and some other medicines. So the blood doesn't thin and then doesn't clot, and the clots do not go to block the small vessels in the brain. Okay, and then if blood pressure is controlled on time, if diabetes is controlled on time, and if the lifestyle changes that one expects, one is advocating for, if because obesity also predisposes to some of these things and worsens some of these things. So these are things that we can control. Okay, but the rest of it outside of our control.
Okay, thank you very much. So can we move to the breast cancer?
No, that's very common with men. It's more common than people realize. It's also something that is curable in most parts when it's discovered on time.
So at every point in time is discovered on time.
On time, yes. And the good thing about, let's say good thing. Well, the one good factor about breast cancer is that the prevention can actually start from the owners of the breast themselves. There is self-breast examination that will help the woman realize that there's something different.
There's something different here.
By touching by herself. Of course, we also encourage the other owner of the breast. Who is it?
So what do you mean by the other owner?
To know his property well.
Okay.
To know his property well. To be able to examine the breast at every opportunity.
Okay. Yeah.
And know the breast so well that if there's any different,
Mm.
if anything is feeling different, he should be able to tell.
Mm.
Okay. Okay, that may not work.
You should be able to tell.
No, but you
actually.
should be able to tell. But
But it's an encouragement
the onus is more
on
on
the owner.
the women to do regular self breast examination. That is outside of the regular check that we're talking about, the regular health check, which necessarily would include a mammogram, which is just a scan of the breast to be sure that there's nothing untoward there. Again, I bring up the matter of running in families. That's another cancer that tends to run in families.
It runs in family.
Yes. It's not inherited, but it tends to run in families.
So, sir, please, when you say something is not inherited, but it tends to run in families, what is disparity?
Okay, something inherited, you're talking about a very good example is sickle cell anemia. Okay. There's the S gene, there's the S gene, the parents donate. You know that once S and S meet, it's SS. There's no,
No bargain.
Yes, once S and S meet, it's SS. For these ones that I've mentioned, there are no markers that you say, once the father brings this one, the mother brings this one, then this person must have breast cancer, or this person must have diabetes, or this person must have. We don't have those markers, we don't have those information. But we find that for some reason, probably from genetic makeup, could be from environmental factors. I mean, they are all, a family is in the same environment. It could be from their cultural practice that predisposes them, diet even, that predisposes them to having those things. So we can't establish that it's inherited. But we know that when we see one person,
it's like a sign.
Yes, the risk increases for other people in the family. But don't forget, men also get breast cancer.
Huh?
Yes. Men can also get breast cancer.
Or chest cancer?
It's breasts.
Okay. How?
They have breasts.
And really, this is possible.
Yes. So the self-breast examination we're talking about
It's not only for women.
It's not only for women. It's more important for women because it's less obvious if a woman has a lump. You actually have to look for it. But for a man, if there's a lump in the breast, it's easier to know that there's something else going there. Yeah.
Oh wow!
Because the woman, they have more material.
But is it something that is common?
Very common
with men?
Fortunately, it's not as common as prostate cancer, but it is common.
But it is common.
Yeah.
So men, you can hear that. So, but like you said, it can be easily spotted.
Yes, it can be spotted, and once you get it on time and make a diagnosis, it's usually easier to treat.
Do you know I'm actually hearing that for the first time?
You're welcome.
So I can imagine how many people would hear a lot of things from this podcast for the first time. And it behoves on us, some people like us, to bring this information out to people so that people can get enlightened. You mentioned something about enlightenment.
Yeah.
And I noted it down as something that is very, very key to having good health.
Yeah.
I also deduced from what you said that in order to enjoy good health, you have to be aware, conscious of yourself, and deliberately do certain things so that you can benefit from
your estate.
So there was one that you didn't talk about, diabetes.
Right. It's more or less along the same lines with the other things we've spoken about. There are two types. The one that depends on insulin and the one that does not depend on insulin. Okay. Whichever one it is usually a result of, let me just step back a bit. There is sugar, we know all that. Then there is the insulin that is produced in the body. The primary role of the insulin is to make that sugar useful
To the body. Okay.
Okay. Now, there are people who have a decreased production of the insulin. It's usually produced in the pancreas. When the pancreas doesn't produce, or when they produce the one that the body does not recognize as being insulin, okay, or when it's not producing at all, okay, then you can now have the sugar is not being controlled, more or less, okay. Now, the one that is dependent on insulin usually starts a lot earlier, obviously, because the sugar would have gone up and is not being controlled. But the one that is not dependent on insulin, some of the time is because as time goes on, the level of function of the pancreas starts to drop and it's not producing as much as it should, for several reasons that we've talked about, several things that can make that happen. I don't think that's within the remit of this one there. Okay. That one, if discovered on time with modification of lifestyle in terms of food, in terms of other things that can be done, fitness and all that, reducing weight, can actually control that without the need for medicine. No, don't use insulin for the one that is not dependent on
insulin.
Exactly. So when that doesn't happen, or when that doesn't happen on time, we now have to get medications that reduce the blood sugar.
Okay. Doctor, it has been a very interesting time today speaking with you. Honestly, I'm so excited. I've learned a lot and I'm really, really, really grateful. I'm sure a lot of people will benefit from this podcast. But before I let you go, I'd like you to just give like a summary advice and encouragement to our viewers out there to more like let them understand the essence and the importance of what we have talked about today.
Okay, so I will congratulate anyone that has reached that managed to watch up until this point. And just to summarize, your health, like you say, is your wealth. And if you're not healthy, I doubt that you can be counted as wealthy. And what you do for yourself now, you will reap a lot later. Hopefully, we'll continue to do good things for ourselves and our health. We need to be aware that there are habits, there are lifestyle choices that affect our overall health, and we need to make the right ones. They will serve us better. We also need to start as early as we can to imbibe these habits and try and get our children to get into this habit of having healthy lifestyles and making healthy lifestyle choices. Be active as much as is possible. If it's walking, you're able to do it. If you can get into a gym space, wonderful. But don't let those instructors teach you the one that will go and injure you. Please, I beg of you, before you go into start your fitness journey, ensure that you check with your doctors to make sure you're healthy enough to do some of those things. And continue to check regularly. Like I kept saying throughout this podcast, there are things that we can do something about if they are caught early. And a lot of those conditions, if they come in late, there's very little anybody can do for you, or little anybody can do to ameliorate them. After a certain age, sorry, like I always tell people, if you're not managing something,
Something
is managing you, and it's best that you know which one it is. So it's been a pleasure being here, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I cannot thank you enough for your time and for this insightful session that we've had. I have come to understand that healthy living is an all-encompassing subject, seeing how self-discipline, eating right, getting quality sleep, exercising, and doing regular health checks jointly contribute to our living healthy. They say, of course, a word is enough for the wise. You have heard. Now it's time for you to act right. As for me, I have made up my mind on a lot of things I need to do right. I invite you to join me as we get on the train of healthy living. Good health and long life is our destination, and we shall arrive safely. Thank you for watching this podcast. I really appreciate you. Please share this video to others. Like and subscribe to my channel so that you can get notified when there is a new post.